My name is Valerie. I am 34 years old, and if you looked at my life on paper, you would see a success story that most people only dream about. I was sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor of a building in downtown Chicago, watching the snow fall over the city. My desk is made of imported mahogany, my chair costs more than my first car, and the view from this window is worth millions. But on that particular Tuesday morning, none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered was the cheap, cream-colored envelope sitting in the center of my desk. It had arrived via standard mail. Not a courier, not a personal delivery, just tossed in with the electric bills and junk flyers. The calligraphy was printed, not handwritten. It was an invitation to my younger sister Brittany's engagement party. I picked it up, feeling the thin texture of the paper. It felt like an afterthought. Just like me. For as long as I can remember, I have been the invisible child. The mistake. The practice run. My sister Brittany, on the other hand, was the masterpiece. She is 25, beautiful in that polished, high-maintenance way, and has never worked a hard day in her life. My parents, Constance and Richard, made sure of that. They poured every ounce of their energy, their money, and their love into Brittany, leaving me to survive on the scraps. I opened the envelope. The venue caught my eye immediately. The Grand Oakhaven Hotel. I had to suppress a laugh. It was a dry, humorless sound that echoed in my empty office. Of all the places in the city, of all the luxury venues and banquet halls, Brittany had chosen the Grand Oakhaven. My phone buzzed on the desk. Speak of the devil. The caller ID flashed Mother. Constance never called unless she wanted something, or unless she wanted to remind me of my place. Hello, Mother, I answered, keeping my voice neutral. Valerie, her voice was sharp, cutting through the line like a knife. I assume you received the invitation. I did, I said, spinning my chair around to look at the city again. Just now. It's a nice venue. It is the best venue, Constance corrected me instantly. The Harringtons are paying for half of it, of course. Preston's family demands excellence. We are lucky they even considered Brittany, given our modest background. I rolled my eyes. My parents weren't poor, but they acted like embarrassed millionaires who had temporarily misplaced their fortune. They were obsessed with status, with appearing wealthy, while drowning in credit card debt to keep up appearances. I'll be there, I said. Good, Constance said, her tone shifting to a warning. Listen to me, Valerie. This is the most important night of your sister's life. Preston's mother, Meredith Harrington, will be there. She is old money. Serious money. Do not embarrass us. How would I embarrass you, Mother? I asked, though I knew the answer. By being you, she sighed, a sound of pure exhaustion. Wear something appropriate. Not those drab business suits you always wear. And please, do not talk about your job. Whatever it is you do these days. Secretary work? Data entry? She didn't know. None of them knew. They thought I was a low-level office drone barely making rent. They didn't know that VK Holdings, the company that owned the building I was sitting in, stood for Valerie Knight. I'll do my best to blend into the wallpaper, I promised. See that you do, she snapped. And Valerie? Don't expect a warm welcome. This night is about Brittany. Just try to look happy for her, for once in your miserable life. The line went dead. She didn't say goodbye. She never did. I stared at the phone for a long moment. A normal person would have cried. A normal person would have felt the sting of rejection. But I had scar tissue where my heart used to be. I didn't feel sad. I felt a cold, calculating resolve. They wanted to have a party at the Grand Oakhaven? They wanted to impress the ultra-wealthy Harrington family? I looked at the framed photo on my desk. It wasn't a picture of family or friends. It was a picture of me, standing in front of the Grand Oakhaven on the day I bought the deed 3 years ago. Okay, Mother, I whispered to the empty room. I'll come to the party. To understand why I didn't just tear up that invitation and block their numbers, you have to understand where I came from. You have to understand the hunger. Let's go back 9 years. I was 25, the same age Brittany is now. But while Brittany is planning a $50,000 engagement party, at 25, I was eating instant noodles 3 times a day because I couldn't afford fresh vegetables. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had driven home to ask my parents for a loan. I had found a rundown motel on the outskirts of the city. It was a dump, roof leaking, carpets smelling of stale smoke and regret, but I saw potential. I had a business plan. I had the numbers. I just needed $10,000 for the down payment and initial renovations. I sat at the kitchen table, my binder spread out. I was passionate. I was excited. I showed them the projected returns. Constance didn't even look at the binder. She was flipping through a catalog for luxury cars. A motel? She laughed, a cruel, tinkering sound. Valerie, please. You are not a businesswoman. You are a dreamer. And not a very good one. Why would we throw good money into a rat trap? It's not a rat trap, I argued, my voice shaking. It's an investment. The location is up and coming. In 5 years, the property value will triple. And in 5 years, you'll still be single and broke, Constance said, closing the catalog. Look at your sister. Brittany is 16 and she already has more social grace than you ever will. We are saving our money for her future. She is going to marry well. Well, you need to learn to be content with mediocrity. My father, Richard, sat in the corner reading the newspaper. He didn't say a word. He never stood up for me. He was a weak man, completely dominated by my mother's narcissism. I left that day in tears. But as I was walking to my beat-up sedan, my father followed me out. He looked around nervously to make sure Constance wasn't watching. Val, he whispered, shoving a crumpled bill into my hand. It's all I have on me. Don't tell your mother. I looked down. It was a $100 bill. $100. I needed 10,000. Thanks, Dad, I said, my voice thick with disappointment. This will really help. Before I could get in the car, the front door flew open. Constance stood there, eyes blazing. Richard, she shrieked. What did you just give her? My father froze. He looked like a deer in headlights. Nothing, Connie. Just gas money. We don't have money to waste on her gas. Constance marched down the driveway, snatched the $100 bill out of my hand, and shoved it back into my father's pocket. She is an adult. If she wants to drive, she can pay for it herself. Stop enabling her failure. She turned to me, her face inches from mine. You want money, Valerie? Go earn it. Stop begging us for handouts. It's pathetic. I drove away with an empty tank and an empty stomach. That was the moment the last thread of affection for my parents snapped. I didn't go home for 2 years after that. I worked 3 jobs. I scrubbed toilets. I waited tables. I did data entry until my eyes burned. I saved every penny. I bought that motel with a high-interest loan that nearly drowned me. I renovated it myself, painting walls until my fingers bled, laying tile until my back screamed. I slept on the floor of room number 4 for 6 months because I couldn't afford an apartment and the motel mortgage at the same time. I ate canned beans. I didn't buy new clothes for 3 years. And it worked. I sold that motel for a massive profit. Then I bought a boutique hotel. Then an apartment complex. Then I moved into commercial real estate. I built an empire out of spite. Every time I closed a deal, every time I saw my bank account grow, I heard Constance's voice calling me pathetic. And I smiled. Now, 9 years later, I owned the very hotel they were desperate to be seen in. And they had no idea. They thought I was still the girl begging for gas money. This party wasn't just a celebration for Brittany. It was a test. And I was going to grade them. Back in the present, 3 days before the party, my private line rang. It was Hector, the general manager of the Grand Oakhaven. Hector was one of the few people who knew the truth. He was a good man, loyal to a fault. I had hired him 5 years ago when the previous owners wanted to fire him for being too old. I kept him on, gave him a raise, and he had treated the hotel like his own child ever since. Ms. Knight, Hector's voice was hesitant. I have a situation regarding the event this Saturday. The engagement party for Ms. Brittany. What is it, Hector? I asked, signing a stack of documents. Is the catering behind schedule? No, ma'am. It's the guest list. The client, Ms. Brittany, sent over the final security protocols this morning. I paused. Security protocols? For an engagement party? Yes. She has flagged one guest as high risk. She included specific instructions for the security team and the front desk. I had a sinking feeling in my gut. Read it to me, Hector. I could hear him shuffling papers. He cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. The note says, guest name, Valerie Knight. Relation, sister of the bride. Status, undesirable. Instructions, under no circumstances is this guest allowed to enter through the main lobby. She is to be redirected to the service entrance at the rear loading dock. Do not allow her to mingle with VIP guests in the foyer. If she argues, threaten removal. Silence filled the line. I stared at the wall, my blood running cold. Redirected to the service entrance. The loading dock. Where the garbage trucks back in. Where the rats scurry around the dumpsters. Ma'am? Hector whispered. I can fix this. I can tell the security team to ignore it. I can roll out the red carpet for you. Just say the word. No, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Do not change a thing. But ma'am, follow the client's instructions to the letter, Hector, I ordered. If they want me to use the service entrance, I will use the service entrance. If they want to treat me like hired help, let them. I don't understand, Hector said. Why would you let them disrespect you in your own building? Because, Hector, I leaned back in my chair, a dark smile playing on my lips. If I walk in the front door like the owner, the game is over too quickly. I want to see how far they will go. I want to see exactly who they are when they think I have no power. Understood, Hector said, though he sounded unhappy. I will inform the staff. But Ms. Knight, the kitchen staff, they know you. It will be hard for them to see you come through the back. Tell them to play along. It's theater, Hector. Just a play. And the final act is going to be spectacular. I hung up the phone. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file for the event. I saw the budget breakdown. My parents were paying for the flowers and the music. The Harringtons were paying for the food and alcohol. But then I saw the discount code applied to the invoice. Family_friends_70. Brittany had begged the sales manager for a discount, claiming her sister worked in the industry, a lie she probably told to get a deal. The sales manager had flagged it for my approval weeks ago, and I had blindly approved it without looking at the names, just thinking it was a standard favor. I had given them a 70% discount. I was practically paying for them to humiliate me. I closed the laptop. Okay, Brittany, I said. You want me to come in through the back? Fine. But be careful what you wish for. You might just get the trash you're expecting. Saturday evening arrived with a biting chill in the air. I stood in my walk-in closet, staring at my reflection. Usually, for a gala or a business event, I would wear tailored Chanel or bespoke suits that screamed authority. Tonight, I chose a simple, off-the-rack black dress I had bought years ago. It was decent, respectful, but it looked tired. I wore no jewelry except a small pair of fake pearl earrings. I pulled my hair back into a severe bun. I needed to look the part. The struggling sister. The failure. I left my Porsche in the garage and took the keys to my old Honda Civic. I kept it around for errands where I didn't want to draw attention, but tonight, it was a prop. The drive to the Grand Oakhaven took 40 minutes. As the hotel came into view, I felt that familiar swell of pride. It was a magnificent structure, a historic building with limestone pillars, a sweeping driveway, and warm, golden light spilling from the grand windows. I had restored it lovingly, keeping the old-world charm while updating the luxury. I pulled into the main driveway. The valet stand was bustling. Expensive cars, Mercedes, Bentleys, Teslas, were lined up. Valets were rushing back and forth. I pulled my Honda up to the front. A young valet I didn't recognize wrinkled his nose as he opened my door. "Event parking is full, ma'am," he said dismissively. "You'll have to self-park in the overflow lot down the street." "I'm a guest," I said, handing him my key. "Valerie Knight." He hesitated, then took the key as if it were contaminated. "Fine." I walked toward the massive double doors of the main entrance. I could see the lobby inside. It was breathtaking. The crystal chandelier, which cost me $200,000 to restore, was sparkling. Guests in tuxedos and gowns were mingling, holding flutes of champagne. I saw them. My parents. Constance was wearing a silver gown that was slightly too tight, her neck dripping in rhinestone jewelry that she probably passed off as diamonds. Richard was in a rented tuxedo, looking uncomfortable. They were standing near the entrance, greeting people with exaggerated smiles. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the red carpet. A large man in a black security suit stepped in front of me. He held a clipboard. He wasn't one of my regular guys, he must have been hired specifically for the event security by the family. "Name?" he grunted. "Valerie Knight," I said. "I'm the bride's sister." He ran his finger down the list. He stopped. He looked at me, then back at the list. A smirk appeared on his face. "I'm sorry, Ms. Knight," he said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "I can't let you in this entrance." "Excuse me?" I feigned surprise. "I have an invitation." Instructions from the host, he tapped the clipboard. "You are not cleared for the VIP entrance. You need to go around to the service entrance." "The service entrance?" I repeated. "You mean the loading dock?" "That's right," he crossed his arms. "Around the back. Follow the signs for deliveries." I looked past his shoulder. Through the glass doors, my mother, Constance, turned her head. She saw me. She saw the security guard blocking my path. For a second, I thought she might come help. I thought, maybe, just maybe, this is a mistake. But then she smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was a smirk. A vindictive, satisfied smirk. She leaned over and whispered something to Brittany, who was standing next to her. Brittany turned, saw me, and let out a giggle. She waved her hand in a shooing motion, like she was swatting away a fly. They were enjoying this. They wanted me to be humiliated. They wanted the guests arriving behind me to see the poor sister being turned away. "Ma'am, you're blocking the line," the guard said roughly. "Move it." "Service entrance." "Now." I stared at him. I could have fired him on the spot. I could have pulled out my phone, called Hector, and had this man escorted off the property in 2 minutes. I could have walked past him and dared him to touch me. But I remembered the plan. "Okay," I said softly, lowering my head in mock defeat. "I understand." I turned around. As I walked away from the warmth and the light, I heard my father's laugh booming from inside. He hadn't even looked at me. I walked along the side of the building, my heels clicking on the cold pavement. The wind whipped at my face. I walked past the manicured gardens, past the fountains, until the path turned into rough concrete. The smell hit me first. The distinct odor of wet cardboard and dumpsters. I had reached the back of the hotel. The loading dock was bathed in harsh, flickering fluorescent light. A delivery truck was backing in, its reverse beep piercing the night air. 2 kitchen staff members were on a smoke break, leaning against the wall. I walked up the metal ramp. My dress caught on a rusty nail sticking out of the railing, tearing a small hole near the hem. Perfect. Just another detail for the role. I pushed open the heavy steel doors and stepped into the kitchen. The noise was instantaneous. The clatter of pans, the shouting of orders, the sizzling of meat. The air was thick with the smell of garlic, roasting beef, and reduction sauces. It was hot, humid, and chaotic. I loved it. This was the heartbeat of my hotel. Behind. Hop behind, a line cook yelled, rushing past me with a tray of appetizers. I navigated through the maze of stainless steel prep tables. A sous chef looked up, annoyed that a civilian was in his kitchen. He opened his mouth to yell at me, but then his eyes widened. "Ms. Nye," he started to say. I put a finger to my lips. "Shoo." He froze, then nodded vigorously, going back to his chopping board with intensified focus. I made my way to the pass, where Chef Marco was orchestrating the dinner service like a conductor. Marco was a large Italian man with a temper as fiery as his marinara, but he had a heart of gold. I had paid for his daughter's braces last year as a bonus. Marco turned, wiping his hands on his apron. When he saw me standing there in my simple black dress, next to the garbage bins, his face went red. "Ms. Valerie," he hissed, rushing over to me. "What are you doing here? Why did you come through the back?" "Hello, Marco," I smiled genuinely for the first time that night. "My sister prefers I use the servants' entrance. She doesn't think I'm fit for the lobby." Marco looked furious. He grabbed a clean towel and dusted off a stool in the corner. "This is an insult. An outrage. I will go out there and—" "You will do no such thing," I ordered gently. "Tonight, I am not the owner. I am just the unwanted sister. You treat me like a guest who got lost, understand?" Marco looked like he wanted to argue, but he respected me too much. "Yes, boss. But it hurts me to see you here." "How is the lobster?" I asked, looking at the plates being garnished. "Perfection," Marco said, handing me a tasting spoon with a bit of the bisque. "But for them? I should serve them slop." I tasted the bisque. It was divine. Creamy, rich, with just the right hint of sherry. "It's excellent, Marco. Don't lower your standards for anyone. Even people who don't deserve it." The dishwashers, the busboys, the prep cooks, they all started to notice me. A ripple of whispers went through the kitchen. These people knew me. I knew their names. I knew that Jose in the dish pit had a new baby. I knew that Sarah on the salad station was taking night classes. They looked at me with respect. Not fear, but genuine respect. "Ms. Knight," Jose called out from the sink, drying his hands. "You want a water? A coffee?" "I'm okay, Jose." "Thank you," I said. Compare this to the lobby. Out there, my own flesh and blood treated me like a disease. In here, surrounded by dirty dishes and grease traps, I was treated like royalty. This was my real family. The double doors leading to the ballroom swung open. Hector, the manager, walked in, looking stressed. He spotted me in the corner. "You're here," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "They are difficult. Your mother is complaining about the napkin folding. She says the swans look like ducks." "Let her complain," I said. "Is the ballroom full?" "Yes. Everyone is seated. They are about to start the speeches." "Good," I stood up, smoothing my dress. "It's time for me to join the party." "Are you sure?" Hector asked. "I can set up a table for you in my office. You can watch on the monitors." "No, Hector," I walked toward the doors. "I need to see it with my own eyes. I need to look them in the face while they lie." I pushed through the swinging doors, leaving the warmth of the kitchen behind, and stepped into the cool, predatory atmosphere of the ballroom. The ballroom was transformed. Brittany wanted a winter wonderland theme, which meant thousands of dollars in white roses, crystal ice sculptures, and silver drapery. It was excessive, tacky, and undeniably expensive. I slipped in through the side door used by the servers. The room was dim, lit only by the chandeliers and the mood lighting on the tables. I scanned the room. There were about 200 guests. I recognized some faces, old neighbors, distant cousins, people I hadn't seen in a decade. I found my assigned seat. It wasn't at the family table. Of course not. The head table was elevated on a dais, seating the bride, groom, and both sets of parents. My seat was at table 19. The very back of the room. By the swinging doors to the kitchen. I was sitting with a group of people I didn't know, mostly co-workers of Preston's who looked bored. As I sat down, a woman next to me scooted her chair away slightly. "You're late," she whispered judgingly. "Traffic," I lied. I looked up at the dais. Brittany looked radiant, I had to give her that. She was laughing, her hand resting on Preston's arm, showing off the massive diamond ring. Preston looked handsome but vacant. He was a trust fund baby who had never had an original thought in his life. Then I saw her. Aunt Lydia. Lydia was my mother's sister, but she was the polar opposite of Constance. Lydia was kind, messy, and loud. She was sitting at a table near the front, but when she turned and saw me in the back, her face lit up. She immediately stood up and made her way through the maze of tables to get to me. She ignored the glare Constance shot her way. "Valerie." Lydia enveloped me in a crushing hug that smelled of lavender and white wine. "Oh, honey. I didn't think you'd come." "I almost didn't," I admitted, hugging her back. It was the first physical contact I'd had with family in years. "Look at you," she pulled back, holding my face. "You look tired, sweetie. Are you eating enough?" "I'm fine, Aunt Lydia." "Really?" She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I heard what they did. The service entrance? It's barbaric. I told Constance she was being a witch, but you know your mother." "It's okay," I said. "I'm used to it." "You shouldn't have to be," Lydia's eyes watered. "And have you heard what Brittany is telling people?" "No." "What?" Lydia hesitated. "She's telling the Harringtons that you have a substance abuse problem. That's why you're not sitting with the family. She said they have to keep you at a distance so you don't cause a scene." My blood boiled. It was one thing to call me poor. It was another to slander my character to total strangers. "Substance abuse?" I repeated, my voice icy. "I drink 1 glass of wine a week." "I know, honey. I know. She just wants to make herself look like the saint for dealing with you." I looked at Brittany up on that stage, playing the perfect angel. "Thanks for telling me, Lydia," I said. "Go back to your seat. The speeches are starting." "I'll sit here with you," Lydia offered. "No. I need to be alone for this. Please." Lydia squeezed my hand one last time and went back to her table. I sat there in the shadows, watching my family. They looked so happy. So perfect. And they had built that perfection on a foundation of lies. They thought I was the black sheep. The stain on their reputation. They had no idea that the chair my mother was sitting on, the fork she was holding, the very roof over her head, it all belonged to me. The servers began pouring champagne for the toasts. I didn't touch mine. I needed a clear head. Deciding to stretch my legs before the speeches began, I walked over to the bar area, which was slightly removed from the tables. Standing there, inspecting a floral arrangement with a critical eye, was an older woman with steel-gray hair and a posture that could cut glass. It was Meredith Harrington. The matriarch. The woman whose approval my mother was so desperate to secure. She was frowning at the flowers. "Too much baby's breath," she muttered to herself. "Looks cheap." I stepped up beside her. It's a filler, I said quietly. When you order the premium package from this specific florist, they tend to overcompensate with volume rather than variety. They should have used white hydrangeas to fill the space. It would have been cleaner. Meredith turned to look at me. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and assessing. She didn't look at my clothes, she looked at my face. You know flowers? She asked. I know business, I corrected. And I know that efficient design usually yields better aesthetics than expensive clutter. Meredith's lips twitched. It was almost a smile. I agree. This whole event is cluttered. It lacks focus. She took a sip of her drink. I don't believe we've met. I'm Meredith Harrington. Valerie, I said, shaking her hand. I didn't offer my last name. Are you a friend of the bride? She asked, her tone implying she doubted the bride had friends like me. Something like that, I evaded. I'm just observing tonight. Observing, Meredith nodded. That's a polite way of saying judging. I like it. Tell me, Valerie, what do you think of this venue? Constance, the mother of the bride, can't stop talking about how prestigious it is. I looked around the room. The Grand Oakhaven is a gem. But it requires a delicate touch. The architecture is Edwardian. You can't fight the history with modern, flashy decor. You have to work with the wood, not cover it up with silver drapes. Meredith looked at me with genuine interest now. Precisely. I told my son, Preston, the same thing. But he lets that girl, Brittany, walk all over him. She sighed, looking at the head table where Brittany was laughing loudly. You sound like you have a head on your shoulders, Valerie. What do you do? I work in real estate, I said simply. Commercial? Mostly hospitality. Acquisitions and management. Impressive, Meredith said. My husband made his fortune in shipping, but I always told him land is the only thing that lasts. You seem to understand value. Value isn't just about price tags, I said, looking directly at my mother across the room. It's about integrity. A building can have a fresh coat of paint, Mrs. Harrington, but if the foundation is rotten, it will eventually collapse. Meredith held my gaze. I saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Not that she knew who I was, but that she recognized a peer. A fellow shark. You are a very interesting young woman, Valerie, she said. It's a shame my son didn't meet someone like you. Instead, we have. She gestured vaguely toward the stage. Just then, the music died down. The spotlight hit the stage. Oh, Meredith sighed. The speeches. Prepare yourself. If Constance's toast is anything like her conversation, it will be agonizing. I have a feeling it will be illuminating, I said. Constance was tapping the microphone. She looked eager. She looked like a predator who had just spotted prey. And I knew, deep down, that I was the prey. Enjoy the show, Mrs. Harrington, I said, and slipped back into the shadows. I made it back to my table just as Constance began to speak. Her voice boomed through the speakers, slightly too loud, causing a feedback whine that made everyone wince. Welcome, everyone, she beamed, opening her arms wide. Welcome to this incredible night celebrating my daughter, Brittany, and her wonderful fiancé, Preston. Applause rippled through the room. You know, Constance continued, her voice taking on that fake, syrupy quality she used when she wanted to sound maternal. Raising a daughter is the hardest job in the world. You worry about them. You pray for them. You want them to be perfect. She looked adoringly at Brittany. And with Brittany, it was effortless. From the moment she was born, she was a light. She was always the top of her class, the captain of the cheer squad, the girl everyone wanted to be. I took a sip of water. Top of her class? Brittany barely graduated high school. I wrote half her essays. We are so proud, Constance wiped a fake tear. Brittany is the best investment, I mean, the best gift, we ever received. A few people chuckled at the slip-up. Constance laughed along, but I knew she meant it. Brittany was an investment. And tonight was payday. Then, Constance's face shifted. A small, cruel smile played on her lips. She scanned the room until her eyes locked on table 19. On me. Of course, she said, her tone dropping an octave. Not all children take the same path. We have another daughter, Valerie. Heads turned. People craned their necks to see who she was talking about. I sat perfectly still, my back straight. Valerie is here tonight, somewhere. Constance waved her hand dismissively toward the back of the room. We are so glad she could make it. We know it's difficult for her to be in settings like this. She paused for effect. Valerie is still finding herself, Constance chuckled, and the room chuckled with her. She's 34 and still figuring out what she wants to be when she grows up. But that's okay. Not everyone can be a star like Brittany. Every family needs someone to keep us humble. Laughter. Open laughter. My cheeks burned, not with shame, but with anger. She was publicly calling me a loser. At my own hotel. But seriously, Constance went on. We love Valerie, even if she did inherit her father's business sense. She winked at Richard, who laughed nervously. But tonight is about success. It's about brilliance. It's about the future. So let's raise a glass to Brittany, the daughter who actually made it. To Brittany, the crowd roared. I didn't raise my glass. Meredith Harrington wasn't raising her glass either. I saw her from across the room. She was looking at Constance with an expression of pure distaste. Brittany took the microphone next. Oh my gosh, thank you, Mommy, she squealed. And thank you to everyone for coming to the Grand Oak Haven. Isn't it amazing? We really wanted the best, so obviously, we chose this place. It's expensive, but hey, you get what you pay for, right? She giggled. And I want to thank my sister, Valerie, Brittany said, her eyes finding me. Val. Thanks for coming. I know you probably had to swap shifts at work or whatever, so I really appreciate it. Maybe later you can get some tips from Preston's friends on how to invest? Just kidding. More laughter. Okay, let's dance. Brittany shouted. The music started. I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. I needed to breathe. I walked toward the restrooms. As I passed the head table, Constance caught my eye. She mouthed the words, "Smile, you ungrateful brat." I didn't smile. I kept walking. I went into the ladies' lounge, a luxurious antechamber with velvet sofas and floor-to-ceiling mirrors before the actual restrooms. I needed a moment of silence. But silence is a luxury I wasn't afforded. The door swung open and Brittany walked in, trailed by 3 of her bridesmaids. They were all giggling, high on champagne and superiority. When Brittany saw me, her smile faded into a sneer. What are you doing in here? She asked. This is for guests. Shouldn't you be out back helping the staff or something? Her friend snickered. Hello, Brittany, I said calmly, fixing a stray hair in the mirror. Congratulations. The speech was illuminating. Did you like it? She stepped closer, invading my personal space. I wanted to make sure you felt included. Even if you are just a cautionary tale. She looked me up and down, curling her lip. And that dress. God, Valerie. Is that from a thrift store? You look like a funeral director. You're embarrassing me. I'm embarrassing you? I turned to face her. Brittany, you're the one accepting charity and pretending it's wealth. Charity? She scoffed. Please. Mom and Dad are paying for this. And the Harringtons. We have money, Valerie. Unlike you. Is that why you needed the 70% discount? I asked quietly. Brittany froze. Her eyes narrowed. How do you know about that? I hear things, I shrugged. Whatever, she rolled her eyes. Look, just stay out of the way. Don't talk to the Harringtons. Don't touch the open bar too much. I told everyone you're an alcoholic, so if you drink, you're just proving me right. The cruelty was breathtaking. She had weaponized a fake addiction just to marginalize me. You really hate me, don't you? I asked. Why? What did I ever do to you? You exist, Brittany spat. You're just, dour. You're depressing. You're always judging us with your little eyes. Oh, look at me, I'm so hardworking. It's pathetic. Nobody cares how hard you work, Valerie. They care about results. And look at you. You have nothing. No husband. No money. No life. She leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. Do me a favor. After tonight, just disappear. Stop coming to holidays. Stop calling Mom. We're moving up in the world, and you're dead weight. Her bridesmaids looked uncomfortable now. Even for them, this was too much. Brittany, one of them said softly. Come on, let's go fix your makeup. No, Brittany stared at me. I want her to understand. You are not wanted here, Valerie. You are a guest because Mom felt guilty. That's it. I looked at my sister. I looked at the girl I used to protect from bullies on the playground. That girl was gone. Replaced by this monster. Okay, Brittany, I said. My voice was steady. I hear you loud and clear. You want me to leave? Yes. You want me to stop pretending I'm part of this family? God, yes. And you think I have nothing? I know you have nothing. I checked my watch. It was 8:15 p.m. You're right about one thing, I said, walking toward the door. I shouldn't be here as a guest. I put my hand on the door handle. Enjoy the party, Brittany. While it lasts. I walked out. I didn't go back to my table. I walked straight to the service corridor, found the electrical maintenance room, and waited for the right moment. The time for observation was over. It was time for action. I didn't have to wait long. And honestly, I didn't even have to sabotage anything myself. Brittany's cheapness did the work for me. To save money on the audio/visual package, Brittany had refused to use the hotel's in-house engineering team. Instead, she had hired a third-party DJ company called Budget Beats that she found on Craigslist. I had seen the setup earlier, wires duct taped to the floor, overloaded power strips daisy-chained together, plugging into a single 15-amp circuit that was also sharing a load with the chocolate fountain. It was a ticking time bomb. At 8:30 p.m., the DJ dropped the bass on a heavy EDM track. At the same time, the chocolate fountain heater cycled on. Pop. The ballroom went black. Not just the DJ booth. The entire ballroom. The chandeliers, the mood lighting, the catering warmers. Everything died. Pitch blackness. Then, the screams started. What happened? I can't see. My dress. Someone spilled wine on me. I stood in the service hallway, the emergency lights casting a red glow on the walls. The door to the ballroom flew open. Hector ran out, followed by a frantic Constance. Fix it. Constance was screaming, her voice shrill and panicked. Fix it now. This is humiliating. Ma'am, please calm down. Hector was trying to check the breaker panel on his iPad. It seems to be a circuit overload. The DJ equipment, I don't care about the DJ. Constance shoved Hector. You are the manager. Turn the lights back on. The Harringtons are sitting in the dark. Do you know who they are? I am trying, ma'am, but the main breaker for the east wing has tripped. It will take 15 minutes to reset the system safely. 15 minutes? Constance shrieked. The party will be ruined. People are leaving. Do something. She grabbed Hector by the lapels of his suit. I will sue you. I will sue this entire hotel into the ground. I want to see the owner. Get me the owner right now. Ma'am, please unhand me, Hector said, his voice hardening. No. I want the owner. I want to scream in his face. I want him to fire you. The kitchen door opened. Chef Marco stepped out, looking worried. The ovens are off. The main course, the lamb, it's going to get cold. Great. Constance threw her hands up. Cold food. Darkness. This is a disaster. Where is the owner? I stepped out from the shadows of the maintenance alcove. The red emergency light hit my face. You called? I said. Constance spun around. When she saw me, her face twisted in disgust. Valerie? What are you doing back here? Are you hiding again? She stomped over to me. Get out of the way. We are dealing with a crisis. We need the owner, not the disappointment. Valerie, please leave. Brittany appeared in the doorway, using her phone flashlight. She looked manic. This is all your fault. You probably jinxed it with your bad energy. My bad energy didn't overload the circuit, Brittany, I said calmly. Your cheap DJ did. He's drawing 40 amps on a 20 amp breaker. Shut up. Brittany screamed. You don't know anything. Constance turned back to Hector. Why are you standing there? Call the owner. Or I will call the police. Hector looked at Constance. Then he looked at me. He took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and stepped back. I cannot call the owner, Mrs. Knight, Hector said formally. Why not? Because, Hector gestured toward me with an open hand. She is already here. The silence that followed was heavier than the darkness. Constance looked at Hector, then at me, then back at Hector. She let out a short, incredulous laugh. Her? She pointed a manicured finger at my chest. Valerie? The owner? Don't be ridiculous. She can't even afford rent. She's a secretary. I never said I was a secretary, Mother, I said, my voice projecting clearly in the hallway. You assumed that. Stop lying. Brittany stomped her foot. Hector, stop playing games. My sister is a loser. She doesn't own anything. Tell him, Valerie. Tell him to stop lying. I ignored them. I turned to Hector. Hector, override code Alpha 9 Zulu, I commanded. My voice shifted. It wasn't the voice of a daughter anymore. It was the voice of the CEO. Bypass the secondary breaker. Isolate the DJ booth from the main grid. Route the emergency power to the chandeliers and the kitchen loop only. Leave the wall sconces off to save load. Hector nodded instantly. Yes, Ms. Knight. He tapped furiously on his iPad. Marco, I turned to the chef. Fire up the gas convection range. Forget the electric ovens. Flash sear the lamb for 2 minutes, then plate it. We lose the sous vide texture, but we keep the heat. Go. See, chef. Marco shouted and ran back into the kitchen. Security, I pointed to the guard who had blocked me earlier, who was now standing there looking confused. Get in there with flashlights. Escort the elderly guests to their seats. Make sure nobody trips. Move. Yes, ma'am. The guard ran off. In 30 seconds, I had issued orders that solved problems they had been screaming about for 5 minutes. Inside the ballroom, the lights flickered. Then, with a hum, the grand chandeliers roared back to life. A cheer went up from the guests. I turned back to my mother and sister. They were staring at me with their mouths open. How? Constance whispered. How did you know those codes? Because I wrote the protocol, Mother, I said. When I bought this building 3 years ago, the wiring was archaic. I spent $2 million upgrading the grid. Bought? Constance shook her head. No. No, that's impossible. You borrowed gas money 9 years ago. And I turned that $100 into a motel. I stepped closer to her. And that motel into a hotel. And that hotel into this. I spread my arms, gesturing to the building around us. Welcome to the Grand Oak Haven. My hotel. You're lying, Brittany hissed, tears streaming down her face. You're making this up. You're trying to steal my thunder. You probably slept with the real owner to get the codes. Just then, the double doors at the end of the hall opened. Julian, my lawyer, walked in. He was wearing a sharp navy suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He walked right past my stunned father and stopped next to me. Ms. Knight, Julian said. I have the documents you requested. The deed, the incorporation papers for VK Holdings, and the event contract for tonight. Thank you, Julian. I took the folder. I pulled out the deed. I held it up. The name Valerie Knight was printed clearly at the top as the sole proprietor. Read it. I shoved the paper into Constance's hand. She looked at it. Her hands were shaking. She read the name. She read the date. She read the value of the property. Her face went pale. All the blood drained from her cheeks. She looked like she was going to faint. Valerie, she wheezed. You're rich? It was the most disgusting thing she could have said. Not you're successful. Not I'm proud. Just you're rich. Yes, mother, I said coldly. I am very, very rich. The hallway was getting crowded. Some guests, curious about the commotion, had poked their heads out. Among them was Meredith Harrington. Meredith looked at the scene. She saw Constance holding the deed, looking like a ghost. She saw Brittany crying. She saw me, standing tall. Meredith walked over, her heels clicking on the tile. She took the deed from Constance's trembling hand and looked at it. Well, Meredith said, a small smile touching her lips. I knew you understood value, Valerie. I didn't realize you owned the vault. Mrs. Harrington, Constance stammered, suddenly desperate to spin the narrative. Meredith. Isn't it wonderful? My Valerie. She owns the hotel. It was a surprise. A surprise for Brittany. She reached out to grab my arm. Oh, my clever girl. Why didn't you tell us? We could have celebrated you. I pulled my arm away as if she had burned me. Stop it, I said. Valerie, don't be shy. Constance's laugh was manic. She's always been so modest. We are so proud. Brittany, look. Your sister owns the venue. Isn't that amazing? No. Brittany screamed. It's not amazing. She lied to us. She made me look like an idiot. You made yourself look like an idiot, Brittany, I said. I just watched. You put me on a blacklist, I continued, my voice rising so everyone could hear. You made me enter through the garbage dock. You told your friends I was a drug addict. You, mother, made a speech mocking me for being a failure. It was a joke. Constance pleaded. Just a joke, darling. You know our sense of humor. I don't find it funny, I said. And neither does my accountant. I turned to Julian. The invoice, please. Julian handed me the bill. Brittany, I said. You signed a contract for this event. You received a 70% discount under the Family and Friends Code. Is that correct? Brittany wiped her nose. So what? Clause 14, Section B of the discount agreement states, I read from the paper, the discount is revocable at the sole discretion of the owner if the client engages in conduct that is abusive, disrespectful, or damaging to the reputation of the staff or management. I looked at Hector. Did Mrs. Knight scream at you? Yes, ma'am, Hector said. Did the client ban the owner from the premises? Yes, ma'am. Did the client slander the owner's reputation? Yes, ma'am. I looked back at Brittany. You violated the contract. The discount is revoked. What? Brittany blinked. I am charging you the full price, I said. Plus a penalty fee for the electrical damage caused by your unauthorized DJ equipment. I took a pen and wrote a new number on the invoice. The total comes to $52,450, I said. And since you have proven to be a high-risk client, I require payment immediately. Before the cake is cut. 50,000? Richard spoke for the first time. He looked like he was going to vomit. Valerie, we don't have that kind of money. We budgeted for 15,000. That sounds like a you problem, Dad, I said. You gave your golden child everything. You bought her cars, clothes, college tuition. You gave me nothing. So, I assume you have plenty of money saved up. Valerie, please, Constance grabbed my hands again. Her eyes were wide with panic. We can't pay that. This will bankrupt us. Please. We are family. Family? I laughed. Family enters through the front door, Mother. Staff enters through the back. And since I'm the owner, and you're the client who can't pay, you're just a trespasser. I held out the invoice to my father. Sign the check, Richard. Or I shut this party down right now. The standoff lasted for a minute that felt like an hour. My father looked at the invoice. He looked at Constance. He looked at Brittany. I can't, Richard whispered. Our credit cards are maxed out. The house has a second mortgage. The truth was out. They were broke. They had been living a lie for years, funding Brittany's lifestyle on debt. Preston. Brittany turned to her fiancé, who was standing behind his mother. Preston, baby, pay her. Write her a check. Tell her to go away. Preston looked at Brittany. Then he looked at his mother, Meredith. Meredith Harrington stepped forward. The matriarch had seen enough. Preston, Meredith said, her voice calm but authoritative. Do not open your checkbook. Mom? Preston squeaked. This is not about money anymore, Meredith said. This is about character. She turned to Constance. Constance, you told me your family was wealthy. You told me Valerie was a burden. You told me you valued tradition and kindness. We do. Constance cried. No, Meredith shook her head. I just watched you lie to my face. I watched you abuse a staff member. I watched you beg for money from the daughter you ridiculed 10 minutes ago. Meredith turned to me. Valerie, is it? Yes, ma'am, I said. You have handled yourself with remarkable poise tonight, she said. If this is the stock your sister comes from, I am severely concerned about the genetics. She turned to Preston. The engagement is off. What? Brittany shrieked. It was a sound that shattered glass. No. You can't do that. I just did, Meredith said coolly. Preston, let's go. We are leaving. But I love her. Preston protested weakly. You love the idea of her, Meredith said. Look at her now. We all looked at Brittany. She was a mess. Her mascara was running, her face was twisted in ugly rage, and she was screaming obscenities. I hate you. Brittany screamed at me. I hate you. You ruined my life. I hope you die alone. Preston took a step back. He saw the real Brittany for the first time. I'm sorry, Brittany, Preston mumbled. He took the ring off her finger. No, wait, he didn't even ask for it back. He just turned around and walked away. No. Preston. Come back. Brittany tried to run after him, but she tripped on her dress and fell to the floor. Constance dropped to her knees beside her, sobbing. My baby. Oh, look what you've done, Valerie. You monster. Are you happy now? I looked down at them. The golden child and the queen mother, huddled on the floor of the service hallway, surrounded by dirty dishes and the hum of the ice machine. Am I happy? I asked. I thought about the instant noodles. I thought about the gas money. I thought about the service entrance. No, Mother, I said. I'm not happy. I'm just paid. I turned to Hector. Hector, the party is over. Tell the guests to leave. And have security escort Mr. and Mrs. Knight and their daughter off the property. With pleasure, Ms. Knight, Hector said. But, where will we go? Richard asked, his voice trembling. We gave up our hotel room for the bridesmaids. I hear there's a Motel 6 down the highway, I said. They leave the light on for you. I turned my back on them. As I walked away, I heard Brittany screaming my name. But for the first time in my life, her voice didn't hurt. It sounded small. It sounded like background noise. I walked into the kitchen. Marco was there. He handed me a glass of the expensive red wine, the bottle that costs $5,000. For the boss, Marco grinned. I took the glass. Thanks, Marco. I drank to the sound of my family being evicted from my empire. The next morning, my phone blew up. 47 missed calls from Constance. 12 voicemails from Richard. A string of texts from Brittany that ranged from I'm sorry to I'm going to kill you. I didn't answer any of them. I sat in my apartment, my real apartment, a penthouse overlooking the lake, and drank coffee. Julian called me at 10 a.m. So, Julian said. The Harringtons have officially pulled out. Meredith Harrington sent a courier this morning. She wants to have lunch with you next week to discuss a potential partnership on a new development in Miami. I might take her up on that, I smiled. And your family? Julian asked. What about them? They are outside your office building. Security says they are demanding to see you. Tell security that if they don't leave, we will press charges for trespassing and harassment, I said without hesitation. Understood. Also, Valerie, your father sent an email. He's asking for a loan. He says they might lose the house. I put my coffee cup down. I thought about the house. The house where I was ignored. The house where my room was turned into a walk-in closet for Brittany the month I moved out. Send them a link, I said. A link to what? To a job application for the housekeeping staff at my motel in Jersey. Tell them I'm hiring. Minimum wage. No family discount. Julian laughed. You're cold, Val. Ice cold, I agreed. I never spoke to them again. I changed my number. I sold the house I had bought for them. Yes, I had secretly bought their mortgage note years ago, but that's a story for another time, to a developer who turned it into a parking lot. Brittany tried to sue me for emotional distress, but Julian crushed the lawsuit in a week. Last I heard, she was working as a hostess at a chain restaurant, looking for a new rich husband. But word gets around. The Harringtons talk. She's poisoned goods in this city. Constance and Richard had to downsize. They live in a small apartment now. No more country clubs. No more gala dinners. Just the mediocrity they always told me I should accept. 6 months have passed since that night at the Grand Oakhaven. I'm currently in London, overseeing the opening of my first international property. The ribbon-cutting ceremony is tomorrow. Meredith Harrington is flying in for it. We've become quite the formidable team. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that walk to the service entrance. I think about the choice I made. I could have stayed silent. I could have let them walk all over me forever. I could have kept shrinking myself to fit into the tiny box they built for me. But I realized something important that night. You cannot buy respect from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You cannot earn love from people who only love themselves. My family wanted me to be invisible. So, I gave them their wish. I disappeared from their lives completely. And in doing so, I finally became visible to the rest of the world. I am Valerie Knight. I am a CEO. I am a survivor. And I never, ever use the back door anymore. So, that's my story. Now I have to ask you guys the big question, was I too harsh? Should I have just paid the bill and let them have their night, or did they deserve to be humiliated and evicted? Personally, I think I let them off easy, but I want to know what you think. Leave a comment saying Team Valerie or Team Family below. I'll be pinning the best arguments. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, please hit that like button, it really helps the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.